everybody, and welcome back to another video. And if you're here for the very first time, you're really welcome, and it's so nice to meet you. I'm Jane and my husband Mike is behind the camera. We're British, early retirees, debt and mortgage free, and living a thrifty, frugal and money saving life on a super tight budget here in Brittany in northwest France. And every Wednesday we open our home and invite you in for a midweek money chat. And this week we're going to talk about those habits that we form, those small repeated actions that have a massive impact. I'm going to give you a really quick introduction today. If you've never read James Clear's Atomic Habits, go and borrow it from the library, go and read it. It's an amazing, life-changing book. But his ideas came from something very British. His ideas originally came from, partly and not wholly, I want to add that, the work of Dave Brailsford. Now, Dave Brailsford is a British sporting coach who changed British cycling from being a sport that really was unheard of, nobody won anything, to changing Team GB's outcomes for cycling to being gold medal winners again and again and again. And Dave Brailsford also gave us the first ever British winner of the Tour de France, Bradley Wiggins, and we had winners after that as well. And he also brought us people like Mark Cavendish and Tom Piddock, who are world champions. So it's where that comes from. And what we're talking about today is the little things, the real little things that we do that are habits that really make a difference. Now, when it comes to frugality, it's okay to have the big things that we do, the life-changing things that we do, but it's also the things that we do absolutely every day. Because those of us who choose to be frugal, who choose to be mindful with our spending, often do so out of need. We would be broke if we weren't frugal. That's the honesty I have to give to you. If I wasn't frugal, we'd have no savings. If I wasn't frugal, we wouldn't have retired early. If I wasn't frugal, we wouldn't live in the comfort that we live. And we live the way we do because of repeated small actions that we do absolutely every day. So the ideas I'm going to share with you today come directly from James Clear's books, Atomic Habits. They come directly from the work of Dave Brailsford and the aggregation of marginal gains. So those little repeated actions that you do every single day that have massive outcomes. Let's get going. When it comes to our budgeting methods, we are not really goals people, and we're not goals people because that's too far in the future, and anyone who's frugal knows it takes years to get the way you're going to go. But what we are systems people. So we have systems in place for how we budget. We have systems in place for how we track our spending, and those now have become habits that we do all the time. They ask us in the shop, do you want a receipt? Yes, I do. I always put the receipt straight in my purse. When I get home, I take the receipt out straight away. I write it into my budget book. I track the amounts and I track the balances of what I've got left. I am not thinking at any stage when I'm doing that, oh, this is going to pay for the patio I'm saving up for. I'm not doing that. So when I am budgeting, it's not with a goal in mind. It's with the system in mind. And the systems become the habits, and the habits eventually lead to the outcomes. The outcomes are too big. I don't know about you, but it's like anything. Like when you're thinking about getting fit, for example, you don't think, oh, in 3 years' time, I'm going to be able to walk all the way up a mountain. You think about the fact that my system is in place, that I'm going to go for a walk every single day. You don't think about the big eventual outcomes. So there's the first one, straight out of Atomic Habits. We're not outcomes focused, but what we are with all of our frugal living is systems focused. James Clear talks about avoidance habits and how they don't work, and I really agree with him on this one because they really do not work for me. and lead me to a feeling of I'm depriving myself or deprivation in some way. An avoidance habit would be saying things like, I can't buy this, or I won't buy that, or I can't do this, or I won't buy that. I don't do that. I don't tell myself what I can't do. What I do is give myself permission to spend on all the things that I've budgeted for. And that turns it into a really positive experience that is sustainable, that I can keep going forever. I write a shopping list. I'm going to write a shopping list. I will write a shopping list. I have written a shopping list. I will go into the store. I will buy what's on my list. I will look out for the offers that I've told myself I will look for. I will prepare food the night before. I will take food out of the freezer. I will batch cook. I will meal plan, and I do those things. So I will and I do. I don't talk about the things that I won't do. So I won't buy a takeaway. I don't eat out. That's not the way that I phrase the self-positive talk that I have with myself. I talk all about the times and I share with you the things that I will do and the things that I do, because I find personally that avoidance tactics don't work. They're something that I've taken out of my dialogue, I've taken out of my self-talk, and that I don't use. And I've swapped them for all the positives that I do, and I share them with you. I'll share with you the next atomic habit that really works when it comes to budgeting, frugal living, saving money, or achieving any of those financial goals that you want, or planning for retirement, and any of those. And all of those, and James Clear says this, and I totally agree with this, is identity is everything. Let's look at people who have stopped smoking. When somebody says, do you coming outside for a smoking break? The words to use is, I don't smoke. Identity is everything. I am a non-smoker. I don't smoke. Do you want to come down the pub with us? I don't drink. Do you want to go out for a takeaway with us? I cook my own food. I eat my own food. Identity is everything. And I absolutely get that. And I have done this for so long. It is who I am. I identify as a person who budgets, as a thrifty person, as a frugal person. Let's give you some examples. I am a frugal person. I behave like a frugal person. I spend my money wisely. I plan my purchases. I budget. I wait. I save for things. I buy quality. I make things last. And it's not about what I do, it's about who I am. And that's what James Clear calls an atomic habit, is when you've reached that point of that's what you identify as, that's who you are. So I'm going to say it loud, I am a frugal person, I budget carefully, I make planned purchases, and I save mindfully for the things that I want. That's who I am. So, as James Clear would say in his book, habits are the solutions to our problems. Now let's think about all those money problems that we had in the past, that we were living paycheck to paycheck, that we had no savings, at one stage we were in debt. So, frugality, mindful spending, budgeting, all of those new habits that we have every day, tracking our spending, planning our meals, saving for everything, having sinking funds, all of those habits that we have now solved all those problems. And because we've solved all those problems, well, not everything. I mean, life's always going to have problems, aren't there? There's always going to things that are going to be a bit sticky. Cost of living crisis, inflation. Nonetheless, by having those frugal living habits in place, they get us through those problems. There's never a solution, but they are working habits that help us get through those problems. They stop us from living paycheck to paycheck. It means that we build savings. It means that we build long-term savings, and it means that we have those sinking funds in place. So I would say, yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that one, James Clear. Those habits are definitely the solution to those problems we had in the past. That's an interesting title, isn't it? Motion is not action. Motion is when you're constantly doing stuff. So there are things that we frugal people do all of the time. And this is what we were doing in the past before we really got a grip on our finances. We had all those motions in place. Oh, I was always buying things in charity shops. I was always buying all the bargains. I was getting any discount codes that I could use. I was using cashback codes all the time. I was stockpiling all the time. You name it, if it was a money saving thing that I could do, I was doing it. And that's what I mean by motion. It wasn't till I actioned a proper zero balance budget where each and every month I wrote a unique budget and gave every pound, or now euro, a job to do. It wasn't until I had my emergency fund properly in place, now 3 to 6 month emergency fund. It really wasn't until I had those sinking funds in place. And I will admit, I even get caught out now of things that I need to make into a sinking fund for next year. So all those things that I thought I was doing to save money, all those bargains I thought I was buying, and I'm one of those people who can get carried away. You know, I'm one of those people who get into canning and think, well, if I spend, 250 euros on a pressure cooker and then I spend another 100 euros on jars, I can save all that money. It's motion, it's not action. Oh, I can dig the garden up and grow all these vegetables and it'll only cost me 500 euros to set it up. That's motion. That's doing stuff all the time and not action. To sum it up, if you need to declutter and you constantly move things around and think, oh, I'll declutter this and I'll declutter that, and you're constantly moving it around, it's what they call churning. It's not decluttering until it's gone and out of the house and it's not replaced. So there's something that I really, really agree with you on, James Clear. It's about action, not motion. And I feel that the actions that we do now on a daily basis, the tracking our spending, the planning of our spending, the spending only what we have budgeted for, those direct actions have led to sustainable, frugal living that we can make work all of the time. When I came to this chapter in the book, I remember thinking like, this is why I fall flat every single time and I don't keep going with things that are working and I sabotage the successes that I have. And this is the bit that James Clear says, and he talks about when you reach the boredom part, that's when you know you've succeeded. So initially when you're paying off debts, or initially when your debts are gone and you're building up savings, you get that real dopamine hit. You get it when you move your money every single month. And I can tell you now, every single month that I do that I'm debt-free, mortgage-free, all of those things, when I'm moving money into savings, there is no dopamine hit at all. There's no feeling of, whoopee, I'm saving all this money. It's just what I do. It's just the habit that I've got. And I miss it. And I think when you miss that dopamine hit of feeling that you've achieved something and you've succeeded in something, you need to give yourself other goals that may be beyond your frugal living, that may be beyond that. It might be, hey, I've been for a walk every day. I've set myself this challenge and I've done it. Feeling good about that. I'm going to clean the kitchen every day because I never used to. And I do now, and that gives me a good feeling. But it's also what James Clear calls that sort of Goldilocks effect as well. If things are too easy, you will get bored of them. If things are too difficult, you'll feel like a failure. So where you have to be when you push yourself, for example, is just that little bit of difficulty to give you that return to that dopamine hit. We currently save 10% of our income every month into long-term savings. We're going to push that to 11%. If that becomes too easy, we're going to push that to 12%. But we're never going to push it to 15% because it will leave us without any discretionary spending. It will leave us without anything at all. And we're not into hair shirt living. We're not those people who are going to just save money for the sake of it because we really believe that money is a tool. We're not frugal to be parsimonious or make our lives a misery or prove to the world that we can go without anything and everything all of the time. That's not who we are. So just remember that if you've reached that point of it's just like walking or riding a bike or making a cup of tea, that frugal living of setting your money aside or writing a shopping list or making a meal plan, and it just feels like part of you and everything that you do, that's how James Clear said you can measure that you've succeeded and you've made it a habit. As I often say to you, I do like to be reflective. Who knew? Who knew it's the little things that we do every single day that makes such a difference? And I think those of us who run a house or work at those sort of microfinance levels, actually it makes a difference. And at the moment, I feel some of the marketing people out there are being really disingenuous, and they're using this as a really cynical way of marketing and saying things like, eat this, buy that, because it's not going to make a difference. Oh, if you have the coffee or don't have the coffee, it makes a difference. Actually, it is, as Dave Brailsford would say, the aggregation of marginal gains. It's the tiny savings that you make every single day, that you keep making them year in, year out, day after day after day, year after year after year, that it does lead to money in the bank. It really, really does. I mean, we don't save a huge amount of money every month into our long-term savings, but when we just do it every single month. We don't touch it for like 2 or 3 years to pay for a project. I promise you, it adds up. It really genuinely does. When you meal plan every single week, it's so easy. It's just what you do. When you can just go to the meal plan and pull things out of the freezer, it seems like to everybody else it's just a piffling, trifling little thing. But I promise you, it adds up. All of those things that we do as frugal people make such a difference. Every time we reuse a piece of foil, every time we wash out a freezer bag and use it again, every time we have a shower and we just take 5 minutes, every time we have a shower but we leave the towel to dry and use it another day, which means we don't put the washing machine on so much. Every single bit really, really adds up, and it gets us to those financial goals, and it might get us there slowly. And I can promise you this, if I thought of those long-term goals all the way, I would feel really disheartened. I would feel like it's so far away, I'm never going to achieve it. But thinking about those things that I can do, the little things that I can do, that are the systems that we have in place every day, all of the time, really do make them achievable and sustainable. They're small, they don't hurt me, they're no big deal. And like I said in that last point there, when they have become the everyday things that we do, we've actually succeeded. Feeling good about that. I'm always interested in what you have to say, and Mike and I read every single one of your comments. Leave me a comment below. Have you read Atomic Habits? Are you familiar with the work of James Clear? Are you familiar with the work of Dave Brailsford? Or where have you got your inspiration from? Where do you get that inspiration for your daily habits that sustain frugal living? Where do you get that from? Because I found it really, really life-changing and life-affirming when I saw the work of Dave Brailsford all of those years ago. I can remember 2012 watching the first British winner of the Tour de France and thinking like, I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime. That is absolutely awesome. I'm being fascinated by the work of Dave Brailsford. But I want to hear from you. Where do you get your inspiration from to keep going with your frugal living and those small repeated actions that you do all of the time. Maybe you've not given it a big deal of thought. Maybe you can share with us those small repeated actions that you do every single day, every single week, every single month that have resulted in sustainable, frugal living. Thanks to everybody who's watched the video today. A big thanks to everyone who hits the like button. It really, really does make a difference. Thank you to all subscribers, old and new, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.